Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a really strategic topic: how you can finally unify your infrastructure, running your trusty old virtual machines right alongside modern containers, all on one single platform. Let's dig into how this can completely change the game for your IT operations.
But let's kick things off with a question I hear from IT leaders just about every day. When you look at your current virtualization setup, are you feeling that squeeze? The unpredictable costs, the uncertainty, that feeling of operational drag from trying to manage two totally separate worlds? If that hits close to home, then you are definitely in the right place.
The truth is, so many organizations are standing at a crossroads with their virtualization. They're facing a bunch of challenges that, frankly, are becoming pretty hard to ignore.
Now, what's really interesting here is that these aren't just separate problems. They're all connected. You've got all this uncertainty in the market, right? That creates cost volatility, and that forces a much bigger conversation. But it's not just about the money, it's about the tool sprawl. Having one team and one set of tools for VMs and a completely different one for containers. It's about that growing mountain of technical debt, all those legacy apps you need to modernize, but you just can't seem to find a bridge to get there. These are the real headwinds holding innovation back.
So, what's the way out? Well, it's about moving toward a unified future, one where a single platform can genuinely handle everything you throw at it. For years, this has been the standard playbook, right? You've got your traditional virtualization stack over here with its own management tools, its own specialized teams, its own budget, and then right next to it, you're building a totally separate container platform for all your new stuff, with its own tools, its own teams, and its own costs. It's just complex and, honestly, really inefficient. The new way is all about simplicity. Just imagine one unified platform where your existing virtual machines and your new containerized apps live side by side. They're managed by the same teams using the same tools. And this is exactly what that new reality looks like in practice. This is Red Hat OpenShift Virtualization. We're not talking about two separate worlds anymore. As you can see, both your VMs and your containers become first-class citizens, running on the exact same OpenShift container platform, on the same hardware. This is that strategic consolidation we've been talking about, made real. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how on earth is this actually possible? How can you run a traditional, stateful VM on top of Kubernetes? It's a great question. Let's pop the hood and take a look.
It's not magic. It's built on 3 layers of incredibly powerful, proven open-source technology. At the very bottom, you've got KVM, the kernel-based virtual machine. This is the native hypervisor built into Linux, and it's trusted by some of the biggest clouds in the world. Then on top of that, there's this amazing project called KubeVirt, which basically teaches Kubernetes how to understand, run, and manage virtual machines. And then it all comes together on OpenShift, which provides that enterprise-ready platform that wraps unified security, management, and operations around everything.
So to boil it all down, OpenShift Virtualization isn't some extra product you have to buy and bolt on. It's a feature, an operator, that you just enable inside your existing OpenShift platform. You flip a switch, and boom, you can now run and manage VMs right next to your containers. It's a core capability.
And for anyone with a background in traditional virtualization, you are going to feel right at home here. All the capabilities you depend on every single day are built right in. You can create VMs from templates, you get deep integrations with networking and storage, you have granular role-based access control, integrated monitoring, and of course, powerful automation hooks for tools like Ansible. It's the full VM lifecycle management you expect, just on a much more modern and efficient platform.
Okay, so the technology is solid. We've established that. But the next and maybe most critical question is, how do you get there from where you are today, especially if you have a massive VMware estate? Let's talk about building that bridge.
We always recommend a phased approach because it completely de-risks the whole process. Phase 1 is simple. Just migrate your existing VMs as is over to OpenShift. The goal here is immediate stability for your costs and your operations. Then, in Phase 2, you start to standardize. You apply consistent security policies, consistent tooling across both your old VMs and your new containers. And then comes Phase 3, which is where the real magic happens. You can now selectively pick which apps to modernize into containers, at your own pace on the exact same platform they were already running on.
And please don't think this migration has to be some painful, one-by-one manual chore. Not at all. With the built-in migration toolkit for virtualization, combined with Ansible, you can automate these migrations at a massive scale. As one of our architects said, you can script the migration of hundreds of VMs to run in parallel. There is no need to do it one by one.
All right, so we've got our VMs onto the new platform. What about day 2? Let's talk about the absolutely critical operations that every infrastructure team lives and breathes: storage, disaster recovery, and security.
On a unified platform like this, you have a ton of flexibility for disaster recovery. The key is to match the right pattern to what your application actually needs. And that's all about your RPO, how much data you can afford to lose, and your RTO, how fast you need to be back up. For just protecting against local hardware failure, simple high availability might be all you need. For your most critical apps, a multi-site active/passive strategy gives you that low RPO/RTO failover. And you know what? For less critical stuff, a good old-fashioned backup and restore strategy is still a perfectly solid option.
Storage is another piece of the puzzle you have to get right. And we find it's best to just start by asking these 5 key questions. First, what are your real performance needs? Second, and this is a big one, can you use the storage you already have? A lot of vendors like NetApp and Dell have certified operators for OpenShift. Third, how are you going to handle daily tasks like snapshots and clones? Fourth, what kind of data replication do you need for your DR plan? And finally, the technical check. Is there a supported CSI driver or operator? Answering these up front will save you so many headaches down the road.
So far, we've mostly talked about what's happening inside a single cluster. But in the real world, nobody has just one. You have clusters in different data centers, maybe in the public cloud, maybe even at the edge. So how do you manage that entire fleet? This is where Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes, or ACM, becomes your absolute best friend. Think of ACM as that single pane of glass that sits on top of everything else. It lets you manage and govern your entire fleet of OpenShift clusters, including all the VMs running inside them, no matter where they are. This is how you get that enterprise-scale management for all your virtualized workloads. Let's make that real with a few examples. Say you've migrated a huge VMware environment onto several OpenShift clusters. ACM lets you manage all of them as if they were one logical unit. Or maybe you're a retailer with a small cluster in every single store. ACM gives you that central hub to govern all of them. Or if you're running a hybrid cloud, ACM is how you enforce consistent security policies and control where applications get deployed, whether it's on-prem or in AWS.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground here, from the challenges to the tech to the day 2 management strategy. Let's start to bring it all home and talk about what your next steps could look like.
So if you only remember a few things from our conversation today, let it be these. First, you can unify your infrastructure and stop managing separate silos. Second, you can stabilize your costs on a predictable modern platform. Third, you can completely de-risk this whole journey with a phased approach. Fourth, you should automate everything you possibly can. And finally, you can manage your entire hybrid fleet at scale from a single control plane. And if this vision resonates with you, here's a really simple, clear action plan to get started. It just begins with a quick 30-minute discovery call so we can learn about your environment. From there, we can look at a migration assessment, show you this stuff live in a demo, and even help you scope out a small, manageable pilot project. That's how you build a real, tangible roadmap to get to this unified platform.
The technology to finally break down the walls between your traditional and modern applications isn't some far-off dream. It's here today. It's about unifying your teams, your tools, and your infrastructure to drive efficiency and really accelerate innovation. So are you ready to start that journey? Thanks so much for your time.